As you fall asleep to the sound of the waves crashing against the side of the ship, you are jolted by the sound of wood snapping. Your eyes open to see the Kraken's tentacle bursting through your wall. Or it has come. Your heart sinks as you hear the bellow of its roar. The Tarrasque is here, and you are about to be an ant under its boot. As DMs, it's not too uncommon to want to capture that feeling of a monster beyond the party's ability to fight right now that lays siege to a city. A moment where the party aren't a threat to the monster, they're collateral damage. Not to belittle the party or rob them of agency, but to set up that they need to come back to this threat more experienced and with better equipment. It's very much a cinematic experience. The dragon swoops down from above and breathes fire down the street as you try to outrun the blast in time to find cover. Or trying to make it to the lifeboats as the Kraken pulls apart the ship you're standing on. Unfortunately, it can be hard to pull off in D&D 5e. One way is to use the chase rules as they're presented in the DMG. There you can use the stat block of the monster as normal, but the party have avenues of escape outside of just dashing. They can make clever use of their terrain to hide. They can even attempt to face the dragon early. But this has the downside of being highly likely to cause a TPK. One breath weapon against a tier 1 party and they're likely to die, but against a tier 2 party they have a good chance of winning in a straight up fight. This is partly why Matt in Critical Role had to literally use 4 ancient dragons to scare his 11th level party into not standing their ground, one of which was heavily buffed. Another way is to have it be purely narrative, or perhaps a series of skill checks. If they fail the checks, they take damage from the result of the monster's attacks. This can work well if the goal is to escape the monster, as a tense chase through the back streets. It also makes it perfectly clear that they cannot fight this monster yet, as they cannot even try. They haven't rolled initiative, this isn't a fight, so there is no hope of winning. Just real quick, if you're enjoying the video and haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video. It really helps the channel out. The problem that can arise from choosing to leave mechanics out of it for the most part, however, is it can set up unrealistic expectations in the players. When they last fought the dragon, they couldn't even hurt it, so they may be convinced that they just cannot fight it, period, and not attempt to return. Which is fine if that's what you want, but if you really do want them to have a boss fight against the dragon, that can be really difficult if the party just keeps fleeing every time, and constantly having to flee can be exhausting for the PCs. Or perhaps they over-prepare, come back, and trounce the bad guy. This forces the party to recognise that the only reason they couldn't win the first time is that you simply wouldn't let them. One way around this is to ignore the monster's stats and keep the fight going for as long as feels appropriate for a high-stakes fight, but this can lead to the game feeling arbitrary and like the results of a fight were determined before the party walked in the door, so they might as well have not shown up. It's an appropriate approach, better suited for a narrative-focused rules-light system in my opinion, like Dungeon Worlds, for example. I think there is a middle ground, a way to have players stand and fight per se against a foe far greater than them, without being able to kill said foe, and still presenting them as the cataclysm they are, all the while reliably dodging a TPK. I'd like to propose the idea of running monsters as traps instead of using their true stat block. You flavour the damage they deal as being indirect damage, like the edge of the flames of a fire breath or falling debris. You can use the breaking an object section in the PHB to determine an appropriate number of hit points for the trap, and use the AC of the actual creature. If the hit point ranges objects get don't truly represent the monster's toughness, I also give the trap a damage threshold. I then give the trap all the same resistances and immunities the monster has. Reducing the trap to 0 in this instance doesn't kill the monster, it just causes it to flee or move on as it's irritated. Finally, I give the trap any unique traits the monster has, and give it the Overwhelming Force trait. It has a static bonus it adds to all its saving throws, which is the mean average of all its saving throw bonuses, and automatically succeeds on repeated saving throws. This is a simplified stand-in for legendary resistance. The DMG has a table for determining appropriate DCs and damage numbers for the trap. My rule of thumb is the trap should be deadly for a group 2 tiers under the monster's CR, and a nuisance for 1 tier under. This method allows these monsters to be terrifying, as the party are being hurt by the after effects of their attacks, not even the attacks themselves. It gives plenty of room for the party to flee, while still allowing them the option to try and be heroic and beat it back. I typically give the trap 3 actions it can take on the passive initiative of the monster it's based on. One great big attack it can only do every 3 or so rounds, that kills a certain number of NPCs, a standard attack, and a defensive action to allow it to wait to regain its big attack, while also giving the party a chance to flee. So, as an example, say I wanted to have a moment where an adult dragon flew through the starting village the party had come to know and love as it tortures the place. I might give the trap 18 AC, give it the hit points of a large resilient object, and give it immunity to an elemental damage type as appropriate to its colour. Obviously its big action is its breath weapon, and maybe the party yet only gets hit with 2d6 damage, as it's meant to be a trap used against 3rd or 4th level characters, but it kills 1d4 NPCs while injuring 1d6 more. Maybe it can use an action to shake a building, dealing a d6 bludgeoning damage to everything inside. And finally, it might have an action where it flies to take cover, granting it half cover as it waits to recharge its breath weapon. I'll then make it act on initiative count 21, and I'll make its Overwhelming Force trait give it a +5 to saves. Now it's ready to be unleashed against a tier 1 party, scaring the shit out of them while leaving enough hope they can beat it later, and not killing all but one of them. If you want the trap I just made, as well as 3 more examples, please consider signing up to the Patreon as a free member. There you can find monsters as traps, and a whole lot more, like lair traps, alternate dragon stat blocks, and much more. It also helps you stay up to date with when videos go live. Hey, if you enjoyed the video, stick around. We're a newly formed TTRPG design duo, and I'm hoping to make a few more videos on DMing tips and tricks. My next video will be about lycanthropes, why I find them underwhelming in 5e, and how to introduce monster weaknesses to your players.